I saw a white SUV aim straight at my son's lemonade stand, and for a second I thought the whole world had gone sideways. Then the engine screamed. Glass exploded, and my 8-year-old was on the grass while the woman who was supposed to keep our neighborhood safe yelled about bylaws. I put my hands on the hood, palms burning against metal, and she still tried to make it look like an accident. It wasn't an accident. It was a calculated attempt to intimidate a kid for selling lemonade. My name is Michael Reed, and for a month our quiet cul-de-sac turned into a battleground because I wouldn't let the HOA president stomp on my family. It started, like most suburban stories do, with a tiny, stupid thing that should have meant nothing. Ethan wanted to run a lemonade stand. Emma helped him paint the sign, Ethan's Lemonade 50s. Jokes free, and I felt that stupid swell of pride that comes when your kid does something earnest and not entirely profitable. Oak Ridge Commons is one of those places where every lawn tells a story of someone who cares about appearances. Mailboxes line up like soldiers' houses wear the same neutral paint, and if a plant grows an inch too tall, someone will write an email about curb appeal. The queen of that little empire was Karen Wilson, HOA president, neighbor to everyone's annoyance, and the sort of person who treats rules like a sword. Her son Brad is a teenager with entitlement and a sneer. He sauntered up to Ethan's folding table, grabbed a cup, sneered, and told my son to put it on my tab. Ethan politely said, "No tabs, it's 50 cents. Brad took a slurp, tossed the cup on the lawn, and the whole thing should have ended there. Except, a week later, we had a notice in our inbox subject temporary commercial structures. Please complete a 20-page application with notarized signatures and a soil report. The email was CC'd to the whole neighborhood, of course, and signed in the kind of passive-aggressive font that reads like a threat. I almost fired off a sarcastic reply. Emma deleted it. "Don't poke the bear," she said, and she was right. We let Ethan keep selling, and people started to come by on purpose. Neighbors who'd seen Brad's move came to support him, which of course pissed Karen off more than a broken hedge ever could. The thing about people like her is they don't just scold. They escalate. And escalate she did. The day she drove her SUV into our driveway, there was this surreal tilt to time. The sun was hot, Ethan was counting quarters, and the roar of an engine cut through the summer quiet like a threat. I watched the grill of that truck grow larger, and the look on Karen's face was not panic, it was fury shaped into motion. I screamed, "Ethan, move," and shoved him. He stumbled onto the grass, scraped and terrified, and my hands hit the hood. I thought if I could just make her stop, she'd see reason. Instead, the front bumper crushed the stand, the pitcher shattered lemonade and ice spraying like confetti from some awful holiday. She climbed out, pointed at the wreckage, and started quoting Section 7C of the bylaws, as if that explained her attempt to injure a child. Someone had called the police. Neighbor phones were already in people's hands. In the blue and red flash of patrol lights, she shifted into victim mode, clutching her chest, claiming I'd attacked her, claiming she accidentally hit the gas. The kids watching from porches were silent. For a minute, I tasted adrenaline and humiliation. The cops took statements. The older officer, Sergeant Morales, was quiet and thorough. The younger one had that deer-in-headlights look. We had witnesses, we had broken wood and tire marks on our lawn, but the DA told us later it might be a he said, she said, without a clear intent to prove. Karen hadn't been arrested, and the HOA sent a letter fined us for unauthorized commercial activity. The envelope embossed with the community logo and Karen's signature at the bottom like a punctuation mark to the insult. That's the minute your blood turns from hot to cold when someone tries to weaponize the system to punish you for defending your son. For a while, I felt like running away from the whole thing would be the sane choice. There were nights I lay awake and asked myself if I was making a mountain out of a lemonade straw. Maybe I was overprotective. Maybe I'd misread her glance. Maybe the cost, legal fees, neighbors' whispers would be higher than any silly victory. Emma was calm like a lake. She poured her fear into work. She's the one who said, "We don't have to win hearts. We have to build a case." She started collecting everything: photos, timestamps, emails, receipts. She's a cybersecurity analyst by trade, and within hours she was in the HOA portal like a woman on a mission. The footage of our driveway gone. Deleted, the message said. I remember that sinking feeling like swallowing a stone. But Emma kept going. Deleted files leave traces. Admin actions leave logs. She pulled a server log showing admin K. Wilson deleted the footage at 5:35 p.m., less than an hour after the police left. She screenshotted it, backed it up to multiple clouds, printed copies, and for the first time in weeks my fury turned into strategy. That discovery changed everything. Karen hadn't made a mistake. She'd tried to bury the evidence. The neighborhood started to stir. Mr. Henderson down the street began showing up on our porch like a retired general, a video of Karen's SUV from his doorbell camera, a blurry cell phone clip from another porch. Petty harassment intensified, newspapers missing trash mysteriously dumped on our strip, a fraudulent tow order placed on my old pickup that said it was abandoned, a tow truck backed into my driveway while Ethan sat in the passenger seat. I ran out and screamed at the driver, and he almost hooked it up before a look at my kid made him think better of it. That day, I felt rage like a living thing. CPS showed up a week later after an anonymous concerned tip, which is to say they'd been weaponized too. I sat with my chest hollow while a social worker walked through our home and ultimately closed the case, but the attempt felt like a shove toward surrender. What finally pushed me to stop just defending and start striking back was not bravado. It was arithmetic and patience. Emma found a vector. The HOA had a board, not a tyrant. The treasurer, a quiet man named Arthur Miller, kept records. We knocked on his door. He was terrified at first, the kind of man who prefers roses to revolutions, but he had been covering up things out of fear of Karen's retribution. Once he saw the server log and the other documents Emma compiled, he quietly copied the real budget and the emails that showed funds being channeled into Karen's personal landscaping and other perks. He agreed to drop a flash drive anonymously at the library return slot. From there, we prepared for the semi-annual HOA meeting, Karen's favorite stage. We printed the videos, we made a slideshow, and we called every neighbor who'd ever been fined for some arbitrary reason. The clubhouse was packed in a way I'd never seen. Karen stood at the podium smug as a queen. She held a decibel meter like a scepter and started lecturing. Then Emma hit play. The projector filled with a slow-mo of her SUV accelerating toward Ethan's stand, her face alive with fury in the windshield. The room went from polite to stunned to furious in about 30 seconds. Then, we lit the slides of emails, Karen's words in black and white ordering the treasurer to waive fines for friends and to bill heavy those who crossed her. We put the fake budget next to the honest one Arthur provided and highlighted thousands siphoned out for her pool cleaner, her landscaper, even a wine club. The murmurs became a roar. Karen tried to scream for order to adjourn. It was like watching an animal trapped against glass. And then, as the crowd pressed in and phones went up, the officers from my driveway walked in. Sergeant Morales approached the podium, looked at Karen, and said words I'll never forget. Karen Wilson, you're under arrest for assault with a deadly weapon, tampering with evidence, and fraud. Watching her handcuffed was not sweet. It was a physical loosening, like something heavy had been taken off the neighborhood's chest. I didn't cheer. I stood there with my hands in my pockets, my heart still thudding. Ethan clinging to Emma's side, and I felt relieved. Not victorious. Relieved. There was one more scene. Brad, the kid who started it all, sat in a juvenile mediation room and, under supervision, apologized to Ethan. It wasn't theatrics. It was a kid finally having to own what his actions cost another child. He said, "I'm sorry," into a camera, and Ethan, in the simple way of 8-year-olds, nodded and said, "Okay." That was the end. I wanted accountability without poison. Karen's downfall came with legal consequences. The HOA had to rebuild trust. Arthur, who'd been trapped by fear, looked 20 years younger. We didn't throw a party. We went home, cleaned splinters out of Ethan's elbows, and drank tea. I still wake at night sometimes thinking about how close we were to walking away, how easy it would have been to let fear win. The lesson I take from it, and the thing I want anyone listening to remember, is that power unchallenged becomes cruelty. Evidence matters, community matters, and standing up for a small thing can save something much larger. Stand up.